If you do anything wrong in your life, and I find out about it, I'm gonna try to take everything away from you. And I don't care when I find out. Could be today, tomorrow, 15, 20 years from now. If I find out, you're fucking finished. Who's that? That's you!
Those chilling words aren't from some crime boss or vengeful ex. That's the cancel culture mob coming for Katt Williams right now, digging through his past like bloodhounds hunting for anything they can weaponize against him. The internet has been buzzing all week with people trying to destroy Katt's career over an old interview with the late radio host Wanda Smith. They're calling him a piece of garbage, demanding apologies, and acting like he committed some unforgivable sin. But here's what nobody's talking about. The real story behind that infamous interview is way more twisted than anyone realizes, and it almost cost Katt his life. See, this whole controversy started when Katt recently apologized for those old jokes he made about Michael Jackson. He admitted that looking back, he shouldn't have mocked MJ because he realized the people giving him platforms had an agenda. They wanted black men to tear each other down. It was a moment of genuine reflection and growth from someone who's been through hell and back in this industry.
I shouldn't have, honestly. Some of these things are the reason that the enemy decides to go ahead and let you be famous, is your ability to tear down your own kind, no matter how high they are.
But instead of respecting that growth, the internet vultures swooped in. Social media exploded with people saying Katt's a hypocrite, that if he's apologizing to Michael Jackson's family, he owes apologies to a whole lot of other people too. And at the top of that list, Wanda Smith, the Atlanta radio host who passed away just last year. Suddenly, everyone was an expert on what happened between them, demanding justice for a woman who, according to Katt, literally tried to have him eliminated. What most people don't know is that the whole Wanda Smith situation was allegedly orchestrated from the very beginning. This wasn't just some interview that went wrong. Katt claims it was a carefully planned ambush. When he showed up to V1013's Frank and Wanda in the morning back in September 2018, he thought he was there to celebrate his Emmy win for his work on Donald Glover's Atlanta. The producers had supposedly promised him a friendly chat about his success, nothing controversial. But according to Katt, Wanda and her team had different plans entirely. They promised they wouldn't bring up his legal troubles, wouldn't mention his kids, wouldn't dig into his personal life. It was supposed to be a victory lap, a chance for Atlanta to celebrate one of their own making it big. Instead, the moment Katt started talking about some uncomfortable truths in the comedy industry, specifically about how certain comedians get pushed while others get ignored, Wanda immediately broke those promises and went straight for his throat. The interview started innocently enough, with Katt discussing the state of comedy and pointing out how talented black female comedians often get overlooked while others get fast-tracked to success without even having to prove themselves on the road. He wasn't trying to tear anyone down, he was highlighting a real problem in the industry, but when he mentioned how some comedians climb to the top by playing into certain stereotypes and appealing to white audiences, that's when things got spicy. Wanda jumped in defending Tiffany Haddish, saying she blew up because she's real. But Katt wasn't having it. He broke down exactly why he thought Tiffany got chosen. Her willingness to constantly talk about dating white men and having lighter skin that made her more palatable to mainstream audiences. It was raw, uncomfortable truth-telling that exposed how the entertainment industry really works behind closed doors. That's when Wanda made her fatal mistake. Instead of engaging with the actual substance of what Katt was saying, she tried to embarrass him with some random question about cooking for his kids. It was such an obvious attempt to throw him off balance and make him look foolish on air, but Katt saw right through it and called her out for being a poor interviewer. The tension in that studio must have been thick enough to cut with a knife. What followed was one of the most brutal verbal beatdowns in radio history. Katt didn't just defend himself, he completely dismantled Wanda on her own show. When she tried to make fun of his hair, calling it a perm, he shot back that his hair was 19 inches long with no chemicals, then invited her to run her gnarled fingers through it to prove it. The way he delivered that line was surgical, precise, devastating, and absolutely savage. But the real knockout punch came when Wanda got desperate and started throwing around gay slurs, calling him little mama and basically trying to question his masculinity. That's when Katt really went nuclear. He flipped it around so smoothly, saying if he's little mama then he's her baby daddy, completely neutering her attack while making her look foolish. The whole thing was masterful. He never stooped to her level, never called her out of her name, but absolutely destroyed her credibility as an interviewer. Here's where things get really dark though. What happened next wasn't just embarrassing, it was potentially deadly. Wanda couldn't handle being humiliated on her own show, so she allegedly decided to escalate things beyond comedy into real violence. Just 1 week later, on September 15, 2018, Katt was performing at the Atlanta Comedy Theater, where Wanda was hosting a comedy night. That's when her husband Lamonte Morris showed up in the parking lot with a weapon. Security footage later surfaced, showing the whole terrifying sequence. You can see Wanda and her husband by the front door, then Morris chasing Katt with what appears to be a weapon. According to police reports, Morris admitted to chasing Katt but claimed he never pulled the gun, saying he just accidentally dropped it while running. Right, because that's what innocent people do, chase comedians through parking lots while accidentally dropping firearms. TMZ eventually got their hands on even more security footage that showed Morris clearly holding a weapon and pursuing Katt into a nearby grocery store. Think about how insane that is. A woman got so upset about being roasted on her own radio show that she allegedly sent her husband to threaten a comedian's life. Over words. Over jokes. This wasn't just hurt feelings anymore, this was attempted intimidation at gunpoint. The aftermath was swift and brutal for Wanda's career. By January 2019, just a few months later, she was fired from V103 with no official explanation given. But people in Atlanta weren't stupid. They connected the dots. Speculation ran wild that her firing was linked to those homophobic comments she made during the interview. In a city with a huge black LGBTQ+ community, using gay slurs as insults was career destruction, and she found out the hard way. Meanwhile, Katt stayed mostly quiet about the whole situation for years. He didn't celebrate Wanda's firing, didn't gloat about her career imploding, didn't even mention it publicly. It wasn't until 2024, during his appearance on Club Shay Shay, that he finally shared his side of the story, and what he revealed was even more disturbing than people realized. According to Katt, the whole thing was orchestrated to humiliate him in front of Wanda's predominantly gay fan base. She was trying to use his sexuality as a weapon, essentially trying to shame him with something she saw as derogatory. But as Katt pointed out, gay people don't consider being gay shameful, so what was she really trying to accomplish? She was exposing her own homophobia while trying to damage his reputation. Now here's where the current controversy gets even more twisted. Dave Chappelle's name has been getting thrown around as someone who supposedly defended Katt over this Wanda situation and spoke out against cancel culture. But that's not exactly what happened. Chappelle actually criticized Katt for going after other black comedians in his Club Shay Shay interview, questioning why he was telling on fellow black performers instead of targeting white comedians who control the industry. Chappelle did speak about cancel culture destroying comedy, but he wasn't specifically defending Katt's treatment of Wanda. In fact, their relationship became more complicated after Katt's explosive interview where he called out everyone from Kevin Hart to Cedric the Entertainer. Chappelle wondered why Katt was focusing his energy on tearing down other black comedians when they're all trying to survive in the same hostile industry. But that nuance gets lost when people are hunting for ammunition to destroy someone. The current mob coming for Katt doesn't care about context, doesn't care about the death threats he received, doesn't care that he was literally chased by an armed man over jokes. They just want blood, and they're willing to distort facts to get it. What makes this whole situation even more tragic is that when Wanda Smith passed away in October 2024, just one day after her 58th birthday, Katt didn't say anything publicly. No statements, no condolences, no acknowledgement at all. Some people are using this silence as proof that he's heartless, that he should have shown respect for the dead regardless of their history. But others argue he did exactly the right thing. Anything he said would have been twisted and used against him anyway. The real question is, what was Katt supposed to do? If he had posted condolences, people would have called him fake and hypocritical. By staying silent, they're calling him cruel and heartless. There was literally no way for him to handle her death that wouldn't result in backlash. And we don't even know if he reached out privately to her family. Public social media posts aren't the only way to show respect for the deceased. This whole controversy perfectly illustrates what Dave Chappelle has been warning about regarding cancel culture destroying comedy. People are literally digging up conflicts from 6 years ago, distorting the facts, ignoring context, and demanding apologies for situations where the victim allegedly tried to have someone harmed. It's completely backwards.
Think about this logically. If what Katt says is true, and Wanda's husband really did chase him with a weapon over comedy, then who's the real victim here?
The person who got roasted on their own show after trying to ambush a guest, or the person who nearly lost their life over jokes? When Will Smith slapped Chris Rock, the world went crazy defending the comedian. But when Katt Williams gets chased by an armed man, suddenly everyone's on the other side. The timing of this controversy is also suspicious. Katt shows genuine growth by apologizing for his Michael Jackson jokes, acknowledging that he was manipulated into tearing down other black men, and suddenly the internet decides to drag up every old conflict he's ever had. It's like they're punishing him for evolving, for recognizing his mistakes, for trying to do better. That's not accountability, that's a modern-day witch hunt. The entertainment industry has always been brutal, but social media has turned it into a gladiator arena where careers can be destroyed overnight based on incomplete information and manufactured outrage. Comedians are supposed to push boundaries, make people uncomfortable, and hold up mirrors to society's problems. But how can they do that when every word gets dissected by people looking for reasons to destroy them? What's really happening here isn't justice for Wanda Smith or accountability for past behavior. It's a coordinated attempt to silence one of the few comedians willing to speak uncomfortable truths about how the entertainment industry really operates. Katt Williams has spent his career exposing the puppet masters, calling out the gatekeepers, and refusing to play the game that would make him more palatable to mainstream audiences. That makes him dangerous to people who profit from keeping comedians in line, keeping them scared, keeping them focused on safe material that doesn't threaten anyone with real power. When he talks about industry manipulation, about how certain performers get chosen while others get buried, about the agendas behind who gets platforms and who gets silenced, he's pulling back the curtain on a system that many people want to keep hidden. So they use his past conflicts, twist his words, manufacture controversies, and unleash social media mobs to try to destroy him. They turn comedy into a crime, self-defense into aggression, and survival into villainy. It's a playbook that's been used against truth-tellers throughout history, and it's being perfected in the digital age. The sad irony is that Wanda Smith's legacy is now forever tied to this controversy instead of her decades of work in radio. She built a career entertaining Atlanta audiences, but now she's primarily remembered for one disastrous interview where she got outmatched by someone who was simply better at verbal combat. That's not fair to her memory, but it's the inevitable result when personal feuds get weaponized for political purposes. Here's what we know for certain. Comedy is dying, and it's not because comedians aren't funny anymore. It's because audiences have been trained to hunt for offense instead of looking for truth, to demand conformity instead of celebrating originality, to punish growth instead of encouraging evolution. When comedians can't take risks, can't push boundaries, can't make people uncomfortable, they stop being comedians and start being motivational speakers with punchlines. The Katt Williams and Wanda Smith situation was a tragedy. Two talented people whose professional relationship turned toxic and potentially dangerous, but using it to destroy comedy itself, to silence voices that make powerful people nervous, to create a culture where every word is scrutinized and every mistake is permanent. That's an even bigger tragedy that affects everyone who values free expression and honest conversation. The cancel culture mob thinks they're fighting for justice, but they're actually fighting for a world where only approved thoughts get expressed, where only safe jokes get told, where only comfortable truths get acknowledged. That's not justice, that's control. And comedy, real comedy, has always been the enemy of control. Don't forget to subscribe to not miss any of the other celebrity gossip. Thanks for watching.